All right, so we got some more user-generated content for today. Character named Oscar Norlander. Thank you, Oscar, for the comment. You said at Daily Persuasion. Another thing that is fun is the analysis of the left. For example, I found this today. For all their faults, the left beats the right in one important area, unity. Is this because good persuasion or what? I'm going to dig into Unhumans to look for the answer because it looks like I have forgotten or missed it. Or is it in there at all? Now, this is an excellent question. Why does the left, politically speaking, globally, have a unity in the way that the right doesn't seem to? So, the right is organized, generally speaking, by if it's the right thing to do, feel good about doing it. The left is united by if it feels good, do it. You notice a difference there. So, left-wing politics originally was designed for the little guy. So you see the early 20th century left-wing progressive movements being about worker welfare, widows, orphans, the disenfranchised and downtrodden of society. Those people who had no real recourse to better themselves in their lives. And those movements had great success in the United States. So you had characters like Theodore Roosevelt, President Theodore Roosevelt, President William Howard Taft. These characters might today be seen in some ways as almost left-wing Republicans because their focus was on the American worker, what works for the American worker, as opposed to what was historically right-wing, which was tradition, structure, organization, those institutions that wielded power. And so what was good for big business? You might think of it that way. The larger organizations, the majority, the money, right? And you saw this carry on for a number of years with some exceptions, right? About law and order and whatnot. So this is a gross generalization, of course, but you can see how this workers of the world unite concept, that there is a sense of envy. You have great things that we're not allowed to have no matter how hard we work. That's not right. And that has been laundered via cultural Marxism into the modern day left, where there's this idea that if you're not a straight white male Christian American citizen, then you are oppressed, and therefore your oppressor is the straight white male Christian American citizen. That is the guiding principle of the left. And those people have good things that we feel like we should have. And if it feels good, do it. Well, we can't do it because we can't have it because they took it from us, so we need to take it from them. So it is a unifying message to create this coalition of the envious. And that's an easy sell. Look at those people over there. They have things you don't. That's not fair. We should take it. For their fault, the left beats the right in one important area, unity. Yeah, it is. Whereas the right understands that equality is folly. There's no way to make equality. That's not a thing. We are all born with different gifts, different skills, different interests, different backgrounds. And we ultimately end up in different places in life. And so the right says protection of inequality is fair. The left says anything less than total equality is unfair. But no, equal is unfair. That's something Yaron Brook always says. I think he has a book by that title. Equal is unfair. So the exercise I'm doing right now is why is there a difference between this group and this group? We have to go all the way back up to what is it that they're optimizing for? And this is an exercise you can do with anything where you want to find out why is a group of people doing this? Work back to their first principles. What are their first principles? Well, I think we have covered that today. And so the left is organized in the way that the right is not, because the right is the group of individualism, whereas the left is collectivism. We all should get the things that we have been unfairly denied. Whereas the right understands that each person, each individual, yes, has rights, liberty and justice for all, like the Pledge of Allegiance says, but to all individuals. And yes, you may have liberty and justice, but some assembly required. What you make of your life is going to be up to you. And there are some people who are starting really far ahead in life. Other people are starting really far behind in life. And that's just the nature of nature, human nature, and also naturally nature. When you compare species, when you compare individual critters within species, when you compare environments, right? One could say, for example, it's not fair that deep sea creatures have to work so hard for so little sustenance with so little light, relative to critters that live on a warm coral reef, for example, where there's bountiful ocean harvest for them. It's not fair. Okay. So what we're getting at here is that there are some first principles that are so impractical that it is improbable that they ever be fulfilled. And there are some first principles that kind of feel offensive, right? Now, speaking of offensive, this gets into feminine versus masculine persuasion. So the masculine optimizes for efficiency. The feminine optimizes for inoffensiveness. To which the feminine says, that's offensive. To which the masculine says, yes, but it's an effective way to operate in the world. That a way to persuade women is to be maximally inoffensive. The way to persuade men is to be maximally effective. Well, that's not fair. Correct. The feminine optimizes for equality. The masculine optimizes for excellence. Yeah, but that feels like it'll create great inequality. Correct, because the masculine optimizes for excellence and the feminine optimizes for equality. Yeah, but that's offensive. Because the feminine optimizes for, you see how this goes on forever, right? So one must understand the starting point and also what the optimizing is for. Now notice, I'm not saying that the masculine versus the feminine are wrong, but you understand the way that our species developed. Women were the nurturers, the gatherers, and men were the protectors and providers for 99.999% of our species history. And so when you have 3 children, let's say, to feed, you want each of them to receive each a fair portion, right? Because there's nowhere else to go. There's going to be arguments, there's going to be fighting. Well, he got more than I did. Well, that's not fair. So the feminine optimizes for what is going to keep the peace amongst the children and other women here at our cave shelter, let's say. Whereas the men are, what is going to feed my family back home? What is going to result in that? Well, effectiveness, results, action, task-oriented versus people-oriented. Again, it's not wrong, but if you bring task-oriented maximum effectiveness into the nurturing space, there's going to be a lot of screaming kids for a long time. And if you bring the feminine of focus on fairness and equality and inoffensiveness and people-oriented, if you bring that into the hunt for big game, y'all gonna die. So the feminine in the wrong place and the masculine in the wrong place means everybody dies. I mentioned the same way that if you have this left-wing focus on everybody should have the same amount or it's not fair, that leads to the destruction of civilization because individual achievement is penalized. And you, in fact, reward the non-achievement of those who are envious, of those who have achieved. And the people punished the most are those who work their way up from disenfranchisement into great success. I think JD Vance, he is, where he come from, a broken home, addiction, the Rust Belt, formerly great America, the forgotten flyover states, coming from nothing, U.S. Marine veteran, GI Bill, Yale Law, Vice President of the United States, after a storied career as a venture capitalist and sometimes celebrity and New York Times bestselling author. He is the ultimate example of what the left used to stand for. Is from the downtrodden becoming great, But because of cultural Marxism, he's straight, white, male Christian, and he's an American. He's a veteran. Ugh. This is what the left says. Ugh. They're disgusted by that, right? They don't believe in the American flag. They don't believe in the Pledge of Allegiance. They don't believe in the military. So 100 years ago, he was a left-wing champion. Now he's enemy number one. He proves that the coalition of the fringes, who is united with envy, that there's a better strategy to get what they want. And it's not collective action and anger and whining and complaining. It's individual achievement. Does that answer your question, Oscar? I think it also answers some questions you didn't even ask.